So I'm here to talk about the protest that happened last Friday in Brooklyn. This was a protest against police violence, and in particular, two videos that went viral on the internet. One at the J Street Metro Tech train station. A bunch of teenagers were in the station, and the police, they claimed to be breaking up a fight, and the police officers violently attacked the children. They punched them in the face. It was gross. It was really gross, and people found it really outrageous. And the other video was the police were following someone who they claimed had a gun, and they came into the station with their guns drawn, and this guy is sitting on the train, the person who allegedly has a gun, and he's sitting there with his hands up, not moving. All the train passengers are running out of the train in terror. Someone who tweeted about the incident, who was on the train, said he'll never forget the faces of terror of the other passengers as they were escaping from the train. And he said, we were all terrified of the police. None of us were terrified of this guy who supposedly had a gun. So yeah, I think he described that best. And that was sort of like a straw that broke the camel's back and caused this really huge action that happened on Friday. But sorry about that. So I do want to talk about, because we're here, I want to talk about this in the context of the wider struggle. This is the current manifestation, in my view, of the Black Lives Matter struggle. It's been going on now for over 5 years. In New York City earlier this summer, we had a heat wave, and there was another story where some police officers came. I think they were harassing some young kids who had opened up a fire hydrant because there's a terrible, terrible heat wave. And so the kids took buckets of water and they just doused the cops. And the reactionaries were furious about this because they saw this as disrespect, and the police officers didn't react with violence. They were humiliated or whatever, and they just walked away. But the real reason the reactionaries were upset about it was because it kind of showed that the people were willing to openly disrespect police officers. They were expressing the feelings that we know that they have inside, and they were expressing them outwardly. They were telling the truth in public on camera and in the internet, and we can't allow that, right? So, but I think that was kind of a precursor to what happened here. I won't say that the two events were connected, that there's sort of like a causal chain of events, but that if you look back at what happened over the summer, you shouldn't be surprised at what happened last Friday. So the NYPD announced that they were going to put 500 new officers in train stations. And this is to stop fare beating, which of course doesn't make sense mathematically, but we know that it's about extracting money from riders and people who get arrested and bringing it to the banks. To describe the action, there were 1,500 people at, about 1,500 people were marching in the street. They started at J Street Metro Tech train station, and the New York Post actually, I think, described the action the most accurately. So, I can't do a better job than this, so I'm just going to read. The headline is, Cop-hating lawbreakers hop MTA turnstiles to protest NYPD fare evasion crackdown. And briefly from the article, foul-mouthed anti-cop lawbreakers jumped turnstiles en masse during wild demonstrations in Brooklyn, disturbing footage shows. Disturbing depending on your point of view. Quote, fuck this shit, scream those among the hundreds who swarmed the Schmerhorn station in downtown Brooklyn Friday night to protest the NYPD's planned crackdown on fare evaders. These incidents come a day after a Halloween night crowd mocked cops as they removed a pile of trash thrown on their car in Brownsville. If you've seen the footage of the police car covered in trash, I'm actually surprised they were able to find the car. But again, like this shows these instances of outrage. It's like, as soon as people have an opportunity to express how they really feel about the NYPD, it comes out. So I was there on Friday. This is like a 3-hour march. Most of the people there probably had never been to a demonstration before. Richard in the back is saying it was probably more around 4 hours. It was exhausting, but the energy was incredible, and people were tagging buses with, all sorts of graffiti against the police officers. There were a few bus drivers who actually honked their horns in solidarity as we were stopping traffic. It was an amazing moment. I'm an organizer with the People's Power Assembly, so we have a lot of discussions about Black Lives Matter, and we try to think about this in the longer term context. And I think if you look at the Black Lives Matter movement, what you tend to see is these large outbursts when there's an outrage, and then it sort of dies down. And people who have come out, participants in these actions who come out for the first time, they sort of leave action sometimes not knowing what they're supposed to do next. And Workers' World Party Boston party member Ed Childs talked about the difference between mobilization and more long-term organizing. And he said that with mobilization, the key is to get out as many people as you can and make a really big splash. But when it comes to long-term organizing, you've got to make a connection, a personal connection with people, and build structures so that there's something left behind when your action is over. Lenin spoke about the same phenomenon, and he called it left-wing opportunism. It's this hope that there's going to be a spontaneous uprising, that if we give people an opportunity and host an event and give them an opportunity to show their rage, that who knows, something might happen. But Lenin said that we can't substitute this hope for hard work. He talked about the importance of Marxists providing political education and doing long-term organizing and really forming a relationship with people. And at PPA, we don't actually know how to do that. We're learning how to do it, and we're discussing it, and it's sort of come in fits and starts, and it's very slow. But for several months now, when the NYPD announced their MTA campaign, the first thing we did is that there was an organizer from the People's MTA, and he designed a brilliant sticker. The MTA put up stickers telling people not to fare evade. We're stepping up our fare evasion is the original sign that they put up. And the sticker that was designed said just racist, very simple. And you put that over the sticker and we're stepping up racist fare evasion. And someone put that sticker up. And we posted it online. We posted it online, and that struck a chord with people. This is back in September. It was one of the posts we did that went viral. People who had never organized with us started following us on Instagram, showing up to to PPA meetings who had never been to PPA meetings, because they said, thank God someone's saying this. Like, I've been thinking this for a long time. It's terrible. It really struck a chord with people, and so we knew we had to follow up on that. And so we've been doing outreach. We've been talking to people in communities, getting on trains, explaining the connection between Wall Street, the police, fare evasion arrests, and it's been interesting. We've gotten more questions than we've put out information, So we're learning more than we're teaching right now. But generally speaking, I think it's important that we continue the work we're doing in terms of creating these relationships with people, because people want something to plug into, and they want to know what to do next. And I don't say this necessarily to be critical. This is something that we're learning. The organizers of last Friday's demonstration, they put on this really brilliant demonstration. It was really beautiful and it was really emotional. And it ended, and the only thing missing from this amazing organization was to say that there's going to be a follow-up meeting. So People's Power Assembly put up online saying, we're going to have a follow-up meeting. And last night we had, I think, about 75 people in this room. We had more attendees than chairs. So I just want to conclude this by saying that the masses are eager to organize, and they want to discuss these issues and make connections and reach out to other people. And I think, you know, in 1917, Lenin told us we don't really have a choice. We have to do this. So, you know, it's our responsibility, and we should do it. That's all.